Well, good morning, Southern Oregon. Welcome to the Real Estate Show. I'm Alice Lema. I'm here with Pete Belcastro. We're both real estate brokers at John L. Scott here in Southern Oregon. And we welcome you to the one and only real estate radio show here in the area. And Pete, we're going to chat for a few minutes about what the week was like. Here we are, mid-February, Valentine's weekend. Wow, it's just a crazy market, isn't it?
Well, here we go. We said last week that if you look at those six cycles, the selling season in real estate, that it was mid-February was that point. It looked like almost every year. It's amazing how consistent it is, even with the pandemic. But in mid-February is when that starts to go up in terms of the number of listings that come on the market. And we've been talking about this on our show every week now for how long? Because they have fallen 66% from just a year ago.
66% down.
Yeah,
Wow.
from a year ago even. So, and we only had 600 listings a year ago at this time, and now we're down to 200, a little over 200. So in terms of just, frame built homes. Anyway, we're going to talk about that today because that has significant meaning for everybody in the real estate industry. Whether you buy, whether you sell, whether you invest, whether you rent, all those things, whether you work in the business, whether you do title companies, whatever, that has significant impact with us. And I think we're beginning to feel it. And how that's going to play out in the next few months is really going to be interesting. And that's what we're going to talk about today. What happens? How do we get ready for whatever is ahead here? And I'm beginning to agree with you, though I haven't agreed with you on this at all. But
What?
I think that we're going to see the listings are beginning to come. We've had more than we've had an increase in a week, in months actually here. So in mid-February, it's beginning to make that little tip up. So we'll see what happens. It's going to be really interesting.
So what made you think that there might be more listings coming? Because I'm the only one out by myself saying that.
Well, I think there's I watch them each week. We talk about them each
You're
week.
just watching the numbers on the stats.
I watch the statistic numbers and see what is coming on. We have lots of pendings going on, and the problem we're seeing, the listings are coming on, but they're just being sold so fast, and the pending sales continue to rise, and that's been a real problem, for us. And anyway, we'll see how it goes. It's going to be, I think, when we get to mid-March and April. Who knows? Schools are opening up in a lot of places. Restaurants are opening up in a lot of places. There's a lot of optimism in a lot of places for a lot of things. And that's going to spill over into the real estate business. No question about that.
Well, we've got a break coming up, folks, sponsored by John L. Scott, by Mutual of Omaha Mortgage Guy Giles, and also the not the National Association of Realtors, the Rogue Valley Association of Realtors. So thank you so much for your sponsorship. Do not touch that dial. We have a fascinating show in store for you. Pete and Alice will be right back. Well, welcome back to the Real Estate Show, folks. I'm Alice Lema here with my coworker, Pete Belcastro. We're both real estate brokers here at John L. Scott in Southern Oregon, welcoming you to another edition of the Real Estate Show. And we have our Market Watch episode this week, which is very timely. We have had so many ups and downs this last year, and now here we are in mid-February, Pete. And right before the break, we were just talking about low inventory and why you thought you might actually be coming along to my camp with the tsunami of sellers coming on board. What do you think?
Okay, well, if you follow us, every week we do the stats in Klamath, Jackson, and Josephine counties, the weekly stats. What happens each week? You can go back, once it's done, it's done. And so you can have that information. So, we've been following this thing just in the last 2 months, Alice. We went down in Jackson County to 199 frame built homes in the entire county for sale. That's just unbelievably low. And so this last week, we saw that jump to 228. Now that includes 73 additional listings going off the market as new pending sales and 43 closed sales in Jackson County. So you can see, even despite all that activity, We've added, not many, but it was the first time it kind of turned around a little bit and started going up and having a little bit more available inventory. But again, it's really a tale of two markets, Alice, more than anything else, is that there's a pretty good choice of listings above $500,000, and below that is really a totally different market. And that's where most of us land in terms of being able to buy and to get a loan, is below that, that $500,000 mark. I will say the hottest part of the market, I would say right now, is the 400 to 600,000 range in Jackson County.
Isn't that incredible?
That's what's selling right now. I mean, there's just a lot of that going on. It's reflecting in the average price, which was last week of $435,000. So we've been watching, that price price creep up for some time, and that's the popular range. With the low interest rates, it's made that $400,000 to $600,000 range right now. That is selling. In fact, there were, I think, almost half of the sales last week in Jackson County. Of the 43, 21 of those 43 were $400,000 to $600,000.
See, and I think the part that's freaking people out is they're looking at the price tag. And if we take a step back, because Pete, what you said, the low interest rates, and this is why it's so good that we do these Market Watch episodes. Those low interest rates mean that your payment is about what it would have been at a $400,000 or $500,000 house with a higher interest rate. So I think it is hard to get your head around these huge numbers for these prices for homes. However, we really got to start looking at the payment, because that's really what it's going to affect us as consumers, or our clients as consumers. So I noticed today out in Sam's Valley that we had some pendings in the 700 range. And these are small acreage. What we call in real estate small acreage would be under 10 acres. And fenced, beautiful house and a shop. So those shops, which are what, $40,000-$50,000 to build, if you go kind of regular, not super fancy, but just kind of middle of the road, those shops now are adding something like $80,000 to properties, because these people that are moving either from town locally out into the country, or we still have all those relocators from different parts of the United States, they all want a little bit of elbow room, and they want a shop, and they want a big, really nice house. And so now we're seeing some of those properties with multiple offers in 6 days over 700,000. But I don't think that's going to be here very long. And here's why: because as soon as all these listings come on the market, the prices will stabilize. Some of the neighborhoods might even go down a smidge. I don't see a big crash happening. I don't see a lot of foreclosures, but I do see some stabilization. And I see sellers, if you're going to put your house on the market, you do not want to add another $100,000. You got to go by what the neighborhood is going for. We have people that got so excited about the price increases last year. They're adding the same like double-digit percentage on top. So if they have a $400,000 house, they're trying to get 5. And I just don't know that that's going to fly. You should just be happy with the appreciation you had in 10 months.
Well, I think probably the biggest problem right now in the whole market is dealing with sellers who are hearing us talk about sellers are getting 99% of their asking price, and prices are going up. As you say, equity, I've gained all this equity. And so sellers need to take a step back, and this is where your agent comes in. Your real estate broker can really help here, is that
if you listen to them.
You can't get too far ahead here thinking, well, gee, I was going to sell mine for 350,000. Now I ought to maybe get 450 for it. And so, or 500, as you say. And so we have to be realistic, because people, again, you've got appraisals, you've got loans, you've got all sorts of things that come into this thing. And just because you think the market is really hot for a seller, because it's certainly, they're selling as soon as they come on, if they're in good shape, if in those kinds of things.
And it's not priced too high. Yeah.
And it's not priced too high, or it's going to sit, because you won't do it. Absolutely. And you can see that all over. But again, for the most part, pricing it is just really the most important thing a seller can do, is get that right price in there and make sure. And as you say, all the time, is sellers, have the house ready. get the home get the pre-home inspection if you have doubts or questions, or if you have a well or a septic. Take that time to do it. You're going to get a good price for your house. Spend that $1,000, even if that's even what it costs, to get those things done. So when the buyers come along, you have multiple offers, and you have this information to help them get your price and maybe a little bit higher. It
Yeah,
just
but
helps.
yeah. So if you have like your example was 350, if your property went up to 350 during the pandemic, then you might try 360, but please don't try 455 if
Yeah.
the neighborhood just doesn't allow it. But if you do go that high, you'll know in an instant, because buyers are the smartest people in the world. They know the market inside and out. In fact, buyers could probably be great real estate agents if they wanted to go through all that for that moment in time. They are the authority, and they know what a good deal is, and they know what's fair market, because they're out there every day. They're obsessing on their phones. And this is the part people don't realize. The pandemic reinforced the digital life. So just think about that for a second. The pandemic really, really solidified that practice of doing everything online. So if you have a real property and you do not put a well test on there, a recent one, not an old one, a recent one, well flow, and at least the bare minimum purity test, then you're really going to hold yourself back, because the buyers are trying to make these decisions online. It doesn't mean they're going to write you an offer from online, but it means they're only going to look at a handful of houses. Well, there's only a handful of houses to look at anyway, but you're going to be top of the list if you took the time and trouble to have all that due diligence done. And I just don't see that many. I just don't see that many listings in Southern Oregon doing the home inspection and doing the well test ahead of time
Um,
in any of the counties.
all right. Well, if I had a $1 million listing, for example, okay, I'd have all that done. If I lived out in the country, for example, even if I lived in the city, I'd have those things done. Here's the reason: there's $26 million plus listings. The luxury market is full of listings out there. Of the 228 that are in Jackson County, think of that. 36 of them are $1 million plus.
With more coming, folks. We know, because we're taking the listing. So
Yeah, yeah.
listen up.
So when the buyer comes along and they're getting pretty picky, even in the 900, 800,000. Okay, anything above that, we're talking about that $600,000 level. When you get above that now, this really is such a really important thing, I think, for the sellers to deal with, is to have that information available to these buyers. It will make your life so much easier, and I think buyers appreciate that as well. And hopefully we're going to see more of that, Alice, because as the competition heats up here, as you say, and there's all these listings are out there, especially in the luxury market, it's almost an imperative that you think about that. Let's go down to the other side. I mean, the other side too, in the 350,000 range, and in that range that most of us are in, and do the same. You can do the same thing there with a pre-home inspection, for example, and have that information for buyers. And buyers are, then you're going to get your money. You're going to get maybe a little.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you're not
Anyway,
going to have that sleepless night. So that's the
yeah.
other thing I think sellers underestimate, is if you don't do your due diligence and you still get your offers and you take one, then you're waiting for the results of these tests that the buyer is paying for. And I think it's a very anxious moment when they do studies. The National Association of Realtors say that is the most stressful moment for a seller, is not waiting for the appraisal. It's waiting for the inspection and the due diligence to come back. And in the state of Oregon, it's so buyer oriented, buyer centric. And I'm not saying that's right or wrong. I'm just saying that's what it is. So if you're a seller, you just really need to pay attention to that. You're going to make your life easier. You're going to sleep better. You're going to get more money. It's going to happen faster. And the buyers will really appreciate all that transparency. We just cannot say it enough. And it does not seem to be quite the practice yet in Southern Oregon, but we're sure hoping. We talk to agents all the time. That's how we know all these listings are coming down the pike. All of us agents talk to each other.
Yeah. Well, no, and you're right, and they're there, and they're going to be gobbled up. And again, so the buyer, on the other hand, has to be, ready to go and be pre-approved and this kind of thing. And we talked with, remember Guy Giles last week from Mutual of Omaha Mortgage told us, we asked him I said, what was the lowest interest rate that you've done? And he said it was 2.20%.
Wow. Wow. And that was
30,
not a VA, was it?
uh,
He said
I,
it was not. He said
it
the
was not
VA was
a,
below 2%.
so think about that, and what that means for this market. So it just allows more and more people to come into the market to be able to buy. But
And to
again,
buy higher prices.
and to buy the higher prices. And that's why, again, that I just looking at this stuff week after week, that 400 to 600 range in Jackson County that's kind of the number one almost selling range of properties right now. It's
So
just
that's the
quite
new normal.
how that is. We used to say 350 was like really high, and now 350 is the new 250, and things. Well, maybe not quite as much, but you get the point. And so we're seeing that, and equity is being gained. So our market is quite dynamic. And remember we always talk about how this time of the year it's winter and people, the buyers are out there. We're certainly seeing that. Do you know there was only 5,000 last month? Okay, in January there was only 5,000 lock boxes open, and yet
There's normally like
we sold
9,000.
a ton
Yeah.
of properties, and we've seen that as high as 12,000 openings in a month. So you can see the people that are out there right now are very serious buyers, and that's why these are being scooped up with fewer showings. You can see it reflects fewer showings and many more. It looks like many more purchases. That's quite remarkable to me.
Yeah, yeah. But even the John L. Scott management, they give us these market directional updates. And the John L. Scott management, Jim Remley, our managing broker, who's going to be on our show in a few weeks, he is of a belief that there's a tsunami of listings coming as well. The backlog of sellers, we'll start calling it. But again, we just don't see it changing the landscape too much. We just see prices leveling out and people having choices. So we've got a break coming up. Pete and Alice will be right back with more Market Watch on the Real Estate Show. Do not go away. Well, welcome back to the Real Estate Show, folks. Pete Belcastro, Alice Lema here, are talking about the Market Watch, Southern Oregon market events here locally. And during the break, Pete and I were just talking a little bit about some of the other folks that think there's a lot of listings coming down the pike in all three of our counties. And Pete, you're up in Klamath County now. How are things going up there?
Well, I think it's the exact same. There is no difference. Something comes on. I think the only difference is the price ranges are a little bit lower what you sell here.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as being able to, well, it's like that. Okay, in Jackson, let me ask you this: in Jackson County, if you set something on a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, quarter acre for $275,000 or $250,000, that's going to go quick, right?
There'd be offers in the 300s. They would
Okay.
overpay.
Well, not quite maybe to that point, but that's what's happening here. Same thing.
So what are the prices like up there?
Well, the average last week, okay, this is the difference in affordability in the three counties. And it's sometimes it stretches closer together, but many times it's far apart. So if you have in Klamath County, this is the affordability. The average price last week was $258,000, Alice. It was the 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 2,100 square foot place on a third of an acre. Okay, for that 258,000. You go to Josephine County, okay. The price is 362,000 now. It's a
wow, that's almost 100,000 difference between Klamath County and Josephine. Right. Wow.
The 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 2,100 square feet, 0.29 of an acre. Okay. Then come into Jackson County. Okay, you ready for this one now? Okay. So Jackson County, we go from 258 to 362 to 435,000.
Wow.
But
wow.
You get only 1,750 square feet and 0.21, less than a quarter of an acre lot.
Wow.
So the affordability, yet you pay more than you do here, kind of thing like that.
But that's $200,000 difference, ballpark, give or take, between the three counties. That is really shocking. And sorry, go ahead.
Well, since I work in kind of all three, although I'm over in Klamath now, but I'm really familiar with Jackson and Josephine as well. you can find some amazing, you look at some of these places and the price differential is quite shocking to me because I'm around Ashland and, different places. And you can get an amazing place here for quite an affordability difference. But, there's great demand and prices are going up. And that's really where we're at right now. Look, we can't sustain double-digit increases in price changes year after year. And right now, we're certainly into that in a big way. And we were talking, about rural properties and how popular they have been. Look over the winter, Alice. I just tell you just one stat. In Jackson County, there were 174 rural properties sold during the 3-month period. Between the under 5 acres, 10 acres, 5 to 10 acres, and then 10 acres and above.
So that's
Anyway,
like more than 50 properties a month
yeah, in the winter.
in the winter.
November, December, January, the median price was $575,000, and the increase in equity increase in price from a year ago was almost 30%. So in
Wow.
Josephine County, the increase was actually 35.5%. So the pressure on rural properties, we knew this was there, is really quite staggering. And so that right now, if that levels off, I don't know if it is going to level off. Certainly the properties that you said, the 0 to 5, 1 to 5 acres, 5 to 10, those are the most popular in those ranges there. As we've been saying, that's what people want. That's what they're looking for. They can do remote working, whatever. Those are just, I'm telling you, as we say, in that 400,000 to 600,000 range. That's it. That's right there. That's absolutely where it's at.
And if you are looking for rural property, especially if you've never lived on rural property before, you really, really want an agent to represent you. And you want somebody from the area because our geology is different than a lot of places. We have issues, other people don't. We also have an area that just doesn't have issues like what you find in Portland or Idaho or wherever you're from. So I just think it's a good reminder that properties can be very complicated, especially in the rural districts, and you really do want a good agent to help you. And it doesn't
Yeah,
have to be us. It doesn't have to be Pete Belcastro or Alice Lema, but we hope you will call somebody because we have a lot of really good agents here in the Valley.
yeah, and you don't want to get yourself into a situation that you're really selling something or buying something that you're going to be disappointed with, because that's really not what you want, which is a big expenditure that we're doing right now. And so we really try to make sure that that's there. I'm sure surprised at that though, and how much it is. I wanted to say in Josephine County, we don't just the number of listings again, Alice, we're talking about here in the show is how just historic to us it is. Josephine County's down to just 86 frame built homes in the entire county. In the entire county, that's all through the city of Grants Pass, all urban areas of Josephine County. That New Hope Road and all that area, Cave
Oh, I
Junction,
love that area. Yeah. New Hope
Wilderville.
Road, Murphy. That's beautiful. So, Jim Remley again mentioned something about that too. He said one of the reasons he thought that we're going to see more inventory is as soon as we see a few houses come on the market, there's a lot of sellers that won't even talk about listing their house until they feel secure finding another one. And he
Yeah.
says, selling begets selling. I just thought that was an interesting phrase. So we're going to be looking for that pipeline of sellers as well.
Well, it's going to start changing, as we say. That cycle begins in mid-February. We're in it now, and we're going to see exactly. We saw it happen last week. We did see more listings come on in some areas, but not all. Josephine County, for example, it's bleak. I don't know any other way to describe that. I mean, it's 86 in the whole county. There used to be 86 just in Northwest Grants Pass area. You listings. A year ago, just to give you the example, a year ago there was 228 there, and this year, right now, there's 86, and they're all selling. I mean, it's not like there's nothing coming on the market. It comes on the market, it just goes off and sells pretty darn fast.
Yeah, and if you have a listing on the market and it has not sold in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, maximum 4 weeks, then you need to know why. And there are some situations where there's probates, there's heirs, there's estates, there's divorces, there's, life situations that sometimes mean a person has to start a little bit high. But if you're not getting offers, at least in your first 14 to 21 days, then you need to either do something about the house or you need to do something about the price, or both. And your agent will tell you as you're getting feedback from the showings you have had. So yeah, that's one of the things about a seller's market. It's very unforgiving to those who are not in escrow.
Yeah. One of the things with showing a lot of buyers properties like I do, and I know you do too, is the condition of the flooring in homes. Um, I don't know if that's kind of just me having just a streak of, of issues with this, but a lot of people come in looking at the flooring.
Well, they don't
And
want carpet. Carpet's a big no-no nowadays. Is that what you're
in what?
talking about? They want
Well,
new
that's part,
flooring?
yeah, those kind of things, flooring, and even if you have carpet, the condition of it, and but what kind of flooring is in the house? That seems to be really something more than I've experienced before.
Like they want hardwood, or what are you seeing?
They don't want carpets,
Yeah, especially old carpet. Yeah.
especially old carpet, or if you have, anyway, that's one of the easy things really to take care of as a seller too, because it's really important, and the other thing, of course, is the kitchen, the kitchen and the flooring, or, the bathrooms, those kinds of things. And it's always trying to make them as nice as possible, clean them up, whatever. I can't believe when sometimes you walk into a place and the odor, it's an owner occupied place.
Somebody lives there.
And you're trying to sell it and you don't, it's just a mess. And that is such a turnoff for buyers, and buyers
Even
are
in a
not,
seller's market, you can't get away with that.
you cannot get away with that. Absolutely. And what's one of the easiest things to do if you're going to sell a property, to me as a seller, is take all the debris on from the outside of the property and get rid of it.
And have a professional cleaning on the inside.
Okay, but on the outside, yes. But on the outside, if you have, whether it's a rural property or whatever, and you want a top dollar for it, and the seller and a buyer comes on here, and they have to overlook that. I understand that, but why wouldn't you not, as you get ready to sell it, especially now, get rid of the debris as much as you can? You never get rid of all of it, but get rid of it to make it look really cool. Another big issues are old hot tubs. Oh my God, horror stories of issues between buyers and sellers over old hot tubs and the removal of them.
Yeah,
And
they're not that easy to get rid of, and it's
it's
hard to get
not,
them to the dump. I mean, didn't you tell me the other day that you had to have one cut up with a chainsaw or
well,
something?
they were going to cut it up with a chainsaw because they couldn't think it was muddy and they couldn't get a truck where they had to get it out. So anyway, but those are really kind of easy things that a seller can do to help themselves be able to get the top dollar right now that they want, because
Mhm,
those are the things that buyers are looking at. And
mhm.
as we get more inventory coming along, buyers can also walk away and find something else or wait for something better. And I think so that's where we are in the buyer process here. Well, we're going to have more. This might be here a while, kind of
Well,
thing.
and I think that's why the back on market is becoming more of an issue for some of these sellers. Buyers are going into escrow, and now we're starting to get a few more listings in each price range. And so, if they're in their due diligence period, they could find some little nothing thing wrong with your house and pop out, terminate, and go buy something else. And if you're selling and you're not in a position to do anything to get the house ready, then at least document that on the listing. I work for a lot of estates. I work for people that don't, they're in a jam, they don't have any money, but we can document in the listing that there'll be a credit for carpet, or, um, you know, I'm not in a position to do anything right now, but I'll do A, B, and C, and we'll take it out of escrow at the end. You just don't want to have people walk in and say, this is it, take it or leave it, because they're going to leave it.
Yeah. Well, and you talk about being creative at different times. This last week, I did something I've not done before. We traded the buyer and the seller. We traded the repairs, and they were just kind of very minor kinds of things in a wonderful house. We traded these repairs for occupy after closing for no charge for a couple of weeks.
Oh, that's super
And
cool. Yeah, that's very cool.
do this, they're going to do this, that, that we probably would not have asked for had we just had the closing. But we ended up doing that. So you kind of start horse trading some of this stuff also between a buyer and seller, whatever it takes kind of to get everybody where they need to go. But you have to be patient in many ways, because especially if another buyer down the road or the seller down the road, if they get stalled on their purchase, then it backs up, and even though these are all contingent on these kind of things happening. So you got to be patient, and got to be flexible, because sometimes it doesn't go the way we want it to go. So flexibility and patience really goes a long way in real estate right now.
Especially during the COVID, we still have unexpected delays and we can't even dream of the things that are happening. So you got to have some squish. What Pete just said, take that to heart. You got to make some allowances, couple days early, couple days late, and try not to get upset when you have a domino of properties in a row. So,
Yeah.
So we've got a break coming up. Pete Belcastro, Alice Lema here with the Real Estate Show. We're brought to you by John L. Scott here in Southern Oregon, Mutual of Omaha, Guy Giles, Mutual of Omaha Mortgage, and Rogue Valley Association of Realtors. We'll be right back. Well, welcome back to the Real Estate Show, folks. I'm Alice Lema here with Pete Belcastro. We're both real estate brokers here in Southern Oregon at John L. Scott, and we have our Market Watch episode today, and there's plenty to talk about. We have all three counties that we're covering. We're transitioning, well, I believe we're transitioning out of a very hot, tight seller's market into a more normal market, which, Pete, remember this time last year, February, the COVID was just starting to be talked about. In fact, I think it was just exactly this week last year that John L. Scott started talking more about it and potential shutdowns. And at the time, the market was leveling off. Post crash, post acceleration recovery, we were finally leveling off after 10 years to a normal market. And then look what happened.
Well, we thought everything was going to go off the cliff, remember?
Yeah.
In April, March, what in the world's going to happen? And we just saw the opposite. That, and you called them waves. We had those waves in 2020, and so we start 2021 off. When you think about it, okay, we start 2021 off. We're in the pandemic still. We're still not open the way we are, although many places are, thank goodness, are being able to do that. And so the real estate market starts 2021 with interest rates historic at that low level. Okay, we have low inventory. You've got high demand. A normal market isn't anywhere near us for all of 2021. I don't know. And I don't know about you, but are you more optimistic now, Alice? I have been. Just the people I'm around, there's more optimism. We're getting more vaccinations with people. The numbers are coming down statewide. They're getting into the vulnerable populations, more of the older population. So it's going to have a cumulative effect on your brain and what you think. Because again, a lot of this I think has been pent up because schools haven't been in session. They still aren't in some places. They are in others. So you have different levels maybe of optimism going on about this. And maybe that's going to affect our market of who's ready to sell and who's ready to not to.
So my prediction is different. I believe from the people I talk to every day, a lot of them parents, a lot of them teachers, a lot of them elderly, that yes, we're all feeling a lot of hopefulness and relief that the vaccine is here. However, I think there's some changes that are not going to, I think there's some things that are not going to go back. I think a lot of parents and teachers, even with the vaccine, are worried about more rounds of the COVID, different, what do they call it? Different variations. But also this was scary enough for a lot of families that's why they're buying these bigger houses on these bigger lots, and they're hunkering down as a group so that they're prepared for anything. And I think in my prediction, and this is just by Alice, that it's going to be a full 5 years before things get back to normal. And that's if there's not another quote unquote event. So when I equate that to what do we do about Southern Oregon real estate, I think the prices are going to level off in 2021, but we'll see if I'm right, because I'm happy to be wrong if that's the case. But I think there's still going to be demand for that. And I think the 2-bedroom house is the new 1-bedroom house, because people are still going to work from home. I just don't see a lot of people going back to work. I think they're going to take their jobs with them, and they're going to move to places like Klamath, Josephine County. They're going to go to Eastern Oregon, wherever they can go with internet. They're going to go to Alabama. They're going to go to Tennessee. There's so much moving around so that they can get more bang for the buck and keep their job. But you know what else I predict? That the wages for those tech jobs are going to go down. That
Okay.
that the companies are not going to pay full price for remote workers, but it's going to be a net gain in the workers' pocket, not only because they get to work from home and they're not paying commuting expenses and blah, 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 but they get to pick where they live and their lifestyle is going to be better.
And the tech companies become more powerful and more money because they're now lowering the wages for their workers. That the optics there do not play well. I would just
Yeah.
say
Well, did you see the mayor of Miami was on TV this week on the financial news? And he is actively courting all those Silicon Valley and Seattle people,
sure.
those big companies, to get them to relocate to Florida, because they now have a workforce there, because a lot of the workforce left and moved there so that they could live in a tax-free state. And now they're trying to get the headquarters to relocate. So if that happens, that will have a huge effect on Southern Oregon real estate, because we are essentially the bedroom community to LA and San Francisco and Seattle. So
One,
I think we will lose a lot of our buyers if those companies relocate that far away.
I had a friend just return from Boise, Idaho. You talk about a city that is being transformed because of this inflow, is that
Yeah.
community. And they're building, Alice, big, beautiful McMansions up there in around the hills and things like that. It's going to totally transform Boise. And this is the fear that you have, where do the people from here go? There's still no listings. There's still the affordability question. You go here to there, and so the dynamics are all in play. I don't think we only know how it goes when we look at the stats at the other end, right? I mean, we don't how it actually ends up, but I fear that, and I really do. And our communities are going to be drastically changed if you have this great influx coming, and they're certainly out there, and they're coming, and there's no doubt, and we got to be prepared for it. We got to have different housing, and you know we're still not there yet. And
But I think, if we get a lot of tech workers staying here in Southern Oregon, they're going to change the landscape by their demands and their desires for services, because they're used to running at they're used to having a lot of different services, more eclectic services. I predict they will start businesses because they will see that those services or those businesses are not there. So we could actually see kind of a boom here in Southern Oregon, but it's going to be of a technical nature, but we're more agricultural. So I look at all this and wonder, okay, so are these big city people going to last 5 years and then leave
well, and
because they really don't like the rural atmosphere? Or are they going to change our community so that they have the kind of services and products that they want?
all right, and will they change what our communities really need, and what I think our real estate market also needs is for Shakespeare to reopen and for the Brit Festival to come back. I hope that you're wrong on those predictions of 5 years out, because we need these places to come back and to start bringing people in who bring in money for our businesses, the restaurants and things like that. Jackson County is still in that extreme stage. It didn't make it, and neither did Josephine County. Klamath County did. We're
I
able to.
know, but should Klamath County have even been in that list?
Oh
There's
yeah,
hardly anybody that lives there.
yeah. Well, anyway, so we're going to see. The market is dynamic, it's fluid, it's ever changing, and that's why you got to join us each week here, because we live it every day, and we talk to people every day, and with these statistics and things, we got a pretty good idea of what's going on and what people are expecting from buyers and sellers today. So
Yeah,
we'll
and
see
it's
what.
real time. We have our pulse on the market real time,
Yeah,
don't we, Pete?
yeah.
Yeah. And just to
Just
finish up on the relocators, these people from urban areas, I think they will support our schools, they will support our Shakespeare, they will support our environment. I just think it's going to be different. And I just don't know if, as an agricultural community, we're quite ready for that, but we'll roll with it. We're Southern Oregonians. That's what we do. We roll with it.
okay. We'll see.
Okay. All
Have a good.
right. Well, yeah. Yeah. So we're going to wrap up our show for the week. This was our Market Watch episode. It will replay again tomorrow on Sunday at 6 p.m. And again, we want to thank our sponsors, John L. Scott here in Southern Oregon, Guy Giles Mutual Omaha Mortgage, and the Rogue Valley Association of Realtors. This is Pete Belcastro and Alice Lema saying, have a great Southern Oregon weekend. Bye.